Ta-da!
Hello fantasy gamers, Matthew here from Grey Army Gaming in tiny little Lund, Sweden. For today's A Few Simple Steps, we will be showing you how to make a bell tower. In this case, it will be a somewhat weathered and rickety old looking bell tower. To start us off now, we can just show you briefly what we are shooting for. Here is the bell tower with the shingles on and with the flocking and the basing all set up. We got a little piece of terrain down there and a pretty good looking piece of terrain that we're going to have here, and this is how it looks. Let's go ahead and show you the steps for how to make it. Here are the supplies we will need for our bell tower. We're going to start out with some of these stirring sticks. We'll use these for the planks, for the platform, for the bell tower. Underneath that we will throw some of these sticks, twigs that we got from our local park. Use these as our beams that will go all the way down to the ground, up to the platform. In addition to that then, we will be using chopsticks from our local sushi restaurant. As you can see, these will work really great for our cross beams and for our other planks. Once we get the roof on, we will be using pieces of bark for our shingles. I'm going to give this a try. Instead of using plastic pieces, these will be nice. They can be chopped into small pieces and put on the top. So we'll give that a try and see how that looks. And in addition, we will need our centerpiece, which will be our bell. Here's an old cruddy Christmas bell that we can use and dirty it up a little bit. A little bit of rope underneath to hang down out of the bell tower. And finally, of course, we're going to need a little bit of paint here to add the final touch on the bell tower. So there you go, let's get started. And here we have our floorboard laid out. We're going to go here and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 across. So that's 5 centimeters. So we'll go 5 centimeters here and 5 centimeters there to give us a square platform. And here's the design we're going to be using now. We have 1.5 centimeter pieces on the edges, 3 of them here, and like I said, 5 centimeters here. The next step now is we're just going to go ahead and take our glue and apply some cross beams here. We'll put 1, 2, 3, 4, and then a couple in the center. So we've now glued our support beams on right here. We can go ahead and add a few more beams around the edges to just give that the finished look. So there we go, we've reinforced the bottom of this. We flip it over now, we can see how it's going to start to look over here on top. And we can go ahead and let this dry before we do a little trimming here and trim some of these sides off to make it look a little bit neater. And then we can go ahead and begin to add our base legs. While we're waiting for our glue to dry, we can take our stick here and our X-Acto knife. What we're going to do is we're going to hew some of the logs into small square looking pieces. So we can just begin to sort of start chopping some of those curves off. Take it, flip it around, do the same thing on the other side, and then do it on the third and the fourth side. If we keep going, eventually we will get down and we will get pieces that look like this. They are in fact from the logs, but they have a nice square feel to them. We'll use these for our 4 corner posts of the bell tower. So here we go with the glue gun. We'll just add a little bit of glue to the bottom and stick our 4 corner posts onto the corners of our bell tower. Just a little bit of glue, you don't need much. And go ahead and stick it straight down. Hold it there for a second until it dries. And go ahead around the corner and add all 4. And there we have our 4 posts. What we'll go ahead now and do is add some beams across the top here. Just to strengthen those and give them some extra support. We can use some chopsticks here because we'll end up covering this up anyway by the roof. Alright, we've got a nice little frame around our box here for our bell tower. The next step we're going to do is take our legs that we've cut here and we will attach them to the bottom and get this thing so it will be freestanding before we go ahead and begin to work on the roof and other support. The legs are now attached to the bottom, and what we're going to do is take this little base that we made out of cardboard. We rounded the edges off and bevel the edges. We're just going to go ahead and attach this to the base, spread the legs out so it has a nice solid stance, and that will give it a lot more stability when it is actually down on a base. We'll go ahead and glue that down right now with the glue gun. And here now is the base attached, and that will stand very nicely. What we can do next is go ahead and take our bell here,
and we are going to take a toothpick and put it right between the center of the bell there, and we'll take two of these pieces on the side, and we will make a little crossbar that we can set here on top of the bell tower like so to hang the bell down inside of it. We'll attach that before we put the roof on. Here we see now the bell as it is attached to the top. We will go ahead and trim off that extra toothpick piece there as soon as it is finished, dried up, and then we can go ahead and add a roof to this structure. While everything dries over there, we can go ahead and make the roof. What I'm going to use for the roof is actually this insert from an After Eight package. As you can see, it's got some really nice texture. We'll just use some of that, cut it to about 7 centimeters like so, and this will be our roof. We'll have this side on the inside because we'll have some texture on the inward side, and we'll go ahead and put our shingles on the outside. So that's the upper part, and what we're going to do now is go ahead and cut a few pieces like this with a little stylized piece hanging down. The way we're going to do that is simply just take our stirring sticks that we have here, and we will just simply cut the piece right off a little bit on the stirring stick like this, so we get a little bit of that cool curved edge, and that'll make a nice little roof edge. For the pitch of our roof now, we'll have just 45-degree angles, and a simple way to do that is to just cut your pieces to be flat, and what we'll do is just glue them one on top of the other like this, and what that will do is give us a nice 45-degree angle pitch. So one little drop of glue, stick them together, and you've got your side pieces for the roof. What we can do next then is go ahead and take our pieces here, our edge pieces, and we will glue them onto the side of our bell tower, and we'll do the opposite on the other side as well. And then we have our roof line, and we also put a cross beam up on here. And what we'll do later on is we will just attach this piece of cardboard onto here like so, and it's on top of that we'll be adding our shingles. Before we do that though, we should go ahead and add a layer of brown paint over everything here, just so that we can make sure that we can get it all covered before we put the roof on. And here now we have put a base coat of brown onto our bell tower. We have covered all of the wood, including these poles here at the bottom. So that will be good. We will let this dry for a while before we go ahead and do some of our standard dry brushing with our golden yellow color. But as you can see, that covered pretty nicely. The dry brushing should do a nice job in really making this wood pop and look old. After that, we'll go ahead and do a little bit of washing on the bell to take away some of that brightness and shine. In addition, however, we also added some paint to our roof. This will be the bottom, so we wanted some brown there. We'll cover this with our shingles as we get going, and that will rest nicely on top of here when it is time to glue it down. So we'll let this dry for a while and go ahead and do some dry brushing when everything is all dried up. For our dry brushing now, we can use our yellow ochre paint. We don't need much, so we will just put a little dab here and get busy brushing it on. So once again, just take a little dab and brush most of it off of your paintbrush, just so that you are able to lightly come across the piece. Now what we're going to do is just take the piece and start to go across it, all the different areas, and making the different areas pop. And here you can see now how it looks with a little bit of that dry brushing yellow there, just to make the wood look a little bit older, to make it look like weather wood. So when we're done with this now, we can go ahead and throw the roof on. What's going to be really nice about using this After Eight paper is it has already little grooves in here. We've cut this just right so that the roof line will go here, leaving one of these bumps over each of the sides. So if I just show you really quickly how that will look, that will sit nicely on there like so. We can go ahead now and glue that down. And we have the roof on now. If we turn this over and look inside, what I liked about using this After Eight paper is you see the nice texture you get on the top of the roof if you look from below. That's going to be really nice when we get all this finished up. The next step now is we're going to go ahead and cut our shingles and get ready to attach those to the top of the roof here. So as I said before, for the roof we're going to be using these actual pieces of bark. What I like about these is they look really good already. They won't require any touch-up work or any paint. We can just simply glue them on. What we're going to do now is just simply cut some strips like this, approximately this size, and I think we'll go ahead and cut those in half so they will fit our roof nicely. So we can take a bunch of them and just make a whole lot of shingles that we can then go ahead and attach onto the roof. Small shingles about that size. The trick now with these, remember, is to start low and go high. So we will have our piece stick out just ever so slightly from the edge and down a little bit. So let's pick a shingle. This one will be fine. And we'll get that ready here. Put a little dab of glue from our glue gun onto here. And we can go ahead then and just stick our shingle right on that edge, starting in the bottom and working our way up. Hold it there for a few seconds until it gets hard. And we can go ahead then and just keep on moving across the row. So there's our first row of shingles. What we want to do now in the second row is we want to stagger these a little bit so they're not simply having straight lines going all the way down the roof line. So we can set one right here and set our first one, then we'll go and find a piece that matches that edge there nicely. So let's go ahead, add our glue right here, use a nice little blob, stick this piece on just ever so slightly over the other shingles, just enough that it will stick over. But not too much so that we don't have enough room for all of our shingles to get on the roof. And there we go, we'll let that dry and we'll cut a small piece here for the side so we can begin to stagger these a bit. So here is now the second row, and we will just keep on adding these as we go up and up and up, and we'll flip around and do the other side as well. So here we have the roof on now, and as we turn it around and take a look, I can say I'm really happy that we went with the bark pieces because that gives it a really nice look. So we're getting close to finishing this piece up. Let's go ahead now and paint up and base the bottom, add a few other little touches, and we can see how that looks when we get that far. In basing this now, the first thing we'll do is just add a layer of green paint underneath here and on the sides. Get it nicely covered so when we add our flock there won't be any light pieces sticking out. Here we have the base now, all base coated in green, so let's let that dry, and as soon as that dries we'll put some glue on and put some flock on it. While we wait for that green to dry now, we can go ahead and take care of a few details. Let's go ahead and paint up our rope that we will attach to our bell. Let's start out with a little bit of yellow paint here, and when that is dry, we can go ahead and dry brush it with a little bit of brown. So let's just go ahead and paint this thing up and get it a nice golden color. With our rope dry now, we're going to go ahead and just do a little bit of dry brushing so we have just a tad bit of brown here. We will brush that off as best as we can. And we want to do is just give this a little darker, earthier look, make it seem a little older, a little weathered, a little worn, not so bright yellow as it is right now. So here we go, let's just go ahead and run our brush across it real easy. And give it that sort of soiled dark look. Very nice, going on quite well. So we have a yellowish, brownish rope that we can then attach to the inside of the bell. Okay, let's let that dry and then we can attach that to the bell. So here now we have the rope that is attached to the bottom of the bell, and that hangs down nicely through the hole in the bottom. and that is what will be used if they need to come up and ring the bell. So there we go. We'll let that hang there and go ahead now and add our flock to our base. So ready to do some flocking. We've got our flock ready here to go. We got our PVA glue, and we're going to take a little brush. We're just going to put some PVA glue on here and spread it out, and then go ahead and just add the flock to that. Let it fall down onto our workspace here. We'll clean it up later. So let's go ahead and start out with a nice pile of PVA glue. And go ahead and feel free to really add it fairly thickly, because the more glue you have, the more the flock will stick and it'll look really good. So let's just go ahead and start adding it on here. We'll just do a small section to show you how that looks, and then we'll go ahead and finish off the rest. So let's start actually by just going around the base here. Feel free to get some glue up on the sides of these supports, these logs, that will in the end make it look better, as if the grass is kind of creeping up on the wood. So go ahead and get it nicely up there on these sides. And that looks pretty decent. Let's go ahead and just drizzle a little bit of flock on there and see how that works out. So there we go. Put some flock on there around the sides and give it a shake off. As you can see, there is the flock base. So we can go ahead now and continue our way around until the entire base is covered. Most of the flock is now applied, and all we have left is this one side edge here to do. So we'll show you how that works. Once again, just take a little bit of paint. Really simple. We just go along where there is green paint sticking out, where there is no flock, and just put a little layer of paint on there. Excuse me, a little layer of glue. Doesn't have to be too much, just enough to cover. We can go ahead and follow that corner like so. Just make sure you overlap on the flock that's already there to make sure you don't have any gaps. And it looks like we have enough glue there. So then we can go ahead and just take our flock and sprinkle it on like so. Make sure you get all of the glue covered. Give it a little shake. Add a little extra here for any places we may have missed. And let's move that out and give you a look at how it looks now. We spin it around, you see we have it entirely covered with flock. So we'll let this dry, and with that we can go ahead and of course add some detail down here if we'd like to. For now we'll just leave it as it is, and we have a finished product. And here's one more look at the piece now, with everything finally finished up and dried, with all the flock set in place, with our rope in place. Looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and take a look at how it actually looks when it's on the battlefield.
Well, there you have it, folks. A few simple steps for making a pretty good looking bell tower. Please do look for this in an upcoming Legendary Battles. Thank you for joining us here today at Grey Army Gaming, where Grey can always play.